There we are. ShiftEQ. That's the logo. Hi,
Hey, here we are again.
there we are again. All working, all good. So, um, all right. So I wrote down some stuff,
Okay.
and what came up for me right after I closed down Zoom was that like it's that I'm thinking kind of that like why do I have the fascination about bodybuilding while not wanting to get into it
hmm
necessarily?
hmm
Um, And I think it's what you talked about earlier that when you choose to go into it, you have this vision, or you used another word for it, but it's vision of yourself that you want to pursue. And for it to be pursued, you have to do like these things. And doing those things means that you have to prioritize, and like it's well, it's what you do. It's like a mind mindset shift.
hmm
And I think that's just what I'm like. Um, Also like the identity shift or change kind of. And I think that's just what I personally like since I've got to know like that there was a thing called bodybuilding.
hmm
Um, and I've been fascinated about that. That when a person chooses to go into that as like it could be as if you're going to another country to study or whatever. It's like you have to pick these things from your life maybe to be able to add these things, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think that's just yeah, not just, but that's what's coming up for me in that question, in the thought process of that.
So if I'm hearing right, what you're saying is a lot of what intrigues you about bodybuilding is the mindset shift that goes from like kind of like an everyday person to a bodybuilder. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess if I were to like break down how like for example, when I get ready for a competition, my goal
Yeah.
for that competition is to preserve as much muscle and display as much muscle as possible, all the while being as lean as possible with regards to body fat. And
Right.
I know that in order for me to reach that goal, I have to eat a certain way. I have to work out a certain way. I have to prioritize sleep and all these other things. And so, pretty much
Right.
when it comes to that mindset shift that you're talking about, it's just more of getting in gear with knowing the exact steps that I need to do to get to my goal. And
Yeah.
the more astringent I am to these specified habits and to these specified goals, the more dialed in and the better result that I'm going to have up on stage. So,
Yeah.
effectively, what you're doing is a daily practice of delayed gratification. You're constantly
Yeah.
investing into this, like we talked about earlier, this version of yourself that you can't see, but you know these intrinsic actions are taking you there. And then also like
Yeah.
every week you have like a check-in. Every week you get to like evaluate where you're going. And so it's more of like being constantly self-aware and holding yourself accountable throughout the entire process so
Right.
that you go after this goal. That's effectively what it is from a mindset perspective.
Right. I think that's something that comes up for me while hearing that and thinking about what I wrote down. What like when you choose to go into that, like what's because who's like, are you the only one who's cheering for yourself, or like, is it because in a soccer team you go to practice and there's like other people and you're cheering each other, but what's that like when you like join, like how do you find the community? Like, how does that start? If you're like
Yeah.
thinking like, I'm feeling so lonely in this project, and I'm like, is there anyone who's gonna like cheer for me about the workout I did today or the workouts I'm gonna do this week?
Right.
Or
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know.
I feel like that's a multifaceted approach. So there's
Yeah,
two
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? So the
Uh-huh.
first thing, I think that if you're feeling lonely, you need someone to cheer you on. I feel that posting on social media and posting your progress is a very empowering thing. There's a lot of people that are always encouraging people to transform, always to do better with themselves, right? And in my
Right.
opinion, a lot of that in the bodybuilding community exists. Like, we know exactly how tough it is to go from eating a whole bunch of processed foods to eating whole foods to, prioritizing your diet and your workouts and having to weigh all your food towards not, like those are tough transitions. So
Yeah.
usually if you can find friends that are in the space, they are usually very encouraging because they know how difficult it is and how lonely it can be if you don't have that support.
Yeah.
The second thing, and just to kind of back to what I told you in the beginning, like
Right.
your why for why you're making this change needs to be significant because
Right. Yeah.
something intrinsic in you that you really believe in and want to achieve, if you really believe and dial into that, you don't need anybody else to validate what you're pursuing. The only
Yeah.
validation you really need is yourself. And
Yeah.
sometimes that validation gets inspired from other people, but until you figure out that same gratifying process for yourself, then yeah,
Mm.
if all you're constantly doing is trying to have someone root you on, but here's the thing is you have an
Mm.
opportunity to root yourself on. You can be your own biggest fan. And the reality is, like, if you don't know how to love and cheer yourself on, how can you expect anybody else to love and cheer you on? You know?
Right.
And so that's what I would always encourage. Always figure out what it is within yourself, then why you want to pursue that change, and remind yourself of that on a daily basis.
Right. Right. I'm letting off from this one. Yeah. Okay. I wanna thank you for that. I kind of wanna shift the we have like the 5, 10 minutes.
I can do about 10 more minutes. I can do about.
Okay. Um, I wanted to ask you about like social media marketing. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm kind of curious about how much you're into that because you have the podcast. And and thank you for doing this too. What's what are the things that you do that you see like works like makes I guess uh yeah, what are things that you do in terms of the podcast? I don't know how to bring this question. I think that's just where I'm
So,
putting it.
so you're asking how do I like market my podcast effectively?
Yeah, how do you market it? Like what are
Mhm.
things that you do and what's yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's also a really interesting question. So I don't particularly market anything, right? Like I don't go out
right.
there. Like I have, like for example, I have a sweater that's going on sale tomorrow.
I
I
see that,
have
yeah.
I have
Awesome.
some shirts that are coming out here in the spring, and then another line of clothing for one of my best friends, and that's
Right.
coming out in the summer. But the for me, I view when I put things out and when I talk about certain interviews or have certain clips, the
Yeah,
whole intention of that is can I provide value for people,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because when people looked at ShiftEQ, they don't look at ShiftEQ, they look at me, they look at Alan. Like what is Alan doing that I can
Right,
support? And so
right.
what, the things that I try to do is effectively what I do is I try to speak into prior versions of myself and
Mm,
prior things that I've gone through and make that relatable for other people that are going through the same things, like a branch to, hey, this is how you can handle it, vice how I used to handle it. and
mm,
and I think just the more that I have focused in on making myself as relatable as possible, as well as providing value in that relatableness, that in
mm,
turn has made people just, all right, you're coming out with the sweater, like, yeah, I love you, I support you, and I want to buy this sweater now because I know what you represent. because
Right, yeah.
when people acquire or buy anything, what you're doing is exchanging value at a cost that is worth more than what they're paying, right?
Mhm.
So like you wouldn't buy a pair of Nike Jordans for $160 or $200. I don't know how much they are now. I don't buy Jordans, but
Right,
I'm saying is for
right.
the people that consume those things, there's something about that set of shoes that it's worth more than the price tag to them, hence why they buy it, right? And so
Yeah.
what I focus on is I want to make sure that ShiftEQ is a brand where people can always go to feel empowered through their adversity. Find another avenue of other people going through shit and how they overcame that shit. And then I want that every single time to see that value in what they do. And so when it
Mhm.
comes to marketing, I really don't market. What I do is I try to provide value in everything that I do so that if I do come out with something, it's of value to people.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. Love that. Right. I think that, yeah, that's definitely there, sort of kind of what I said with that. All right. Wow. Do I have, um, I guess that's it
Okay.
for now. Yeah. I'm for sure gonna have things, that's probably coming up, but, yeah, I really appreciate that. Um, Also, how are you doing right now with all the fires
Yeah,
in Cali?
the fires have been pretty crazy in the sense of
Terrible.
yeah, the winds have been pretty strong. Um, it's unfortunate to see how many people lost everything for sure. Um,
Yeah.
and it's sad and it's also eye-opening in the sense
Hmm.
of we just don't realize how vulnerable we are to a circumstance and how quickly we can really lose everything. And
Yeah.
so, it's really unfortunate, but I mean, it's also an opportunity for us to kind of reflect on being appreciative of the things that we still have, you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it has been kind of insane in the sense of so I actually started taking the stand-up comedy course in Santa Monica, which is right south of
Oh
all
yeah.
of
Yeah.
the fires.
Yeah.
And
I was there just in December. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was kind of crazy because this last Tuesdays when all the fires started happening, and I remember driving into Santa Monica at night and seeing the hills on fire, but not
Yeah.
really processing that that was real life. Because I think we're so used to
Yeah.
seeing the world from a screen that you
Oh
just don't know
yeah.
what's AI, you don't know what's filtered, you don't know what's this, you don't know what's that. And it was really interesting for me to be like, oh, that's really on fire. Like that's not a joke. Like that's a real fire that's going on. And wow, what a
Yeah.
reality check. Um,
Yeah.
and then by the time I left, the fire had made its way all the way down to the highway. So it was kind of insane to see how
Mm.
far the fire had traveled. But yeah, that's just, I just my heart goes out to a lot of those people who are affected.
Oh yeah. Thank
And
you.
I hope they find a way to rebuild. And I know they will, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I can't imagine some of the things that those people are going through because of all of that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're staying safe. Safe.
Me too.
So.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's make it that. You all good? Is there something you wanna end the Shift IQ podcast? You want to listen to it?
Yeah, I just if you guys have a chance to listen, go shifteq.podcast. It's on Instagram and on YouTube.
Yes.
Um, and then yeah, if you guys have any kind of fitness, anything, please feel free to DM or follow the page. I definitely love supporting people in their goals. And for me,
Yes.
there's nothing more gratifying than someone telling me that something I spoke of changed the way that they approach
Mm.
something and it's changed their life. Like that is the most gratifying feeling and most validating feeling you can get, right? Because I mean, just like yourself, right? You're putting yourself out there with the podcast, you're reaching out to people,
Yeah.
everything. So anytime
Yeah.
someone gives you feedback on you putting yourself out there, it is
Yes.
as validating as it gets, you know?
Yes, it
So
is.
by all
Yeah.
means, please feel free to reach out. More than happy to help. And you'll go from there.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Ellen. And I love your
Absolutely.
work. Yeah. Keep doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Bye. You too.